The most common and lazy argument I hear from trans activists whenever I'm criticizing their ideology is, I must hate myself for being trans. The reason why I say there are only two genders, children can't consent to sex changes, men should not be in women's spaces, is because I'm transphobic. Even to myself. But is that really the truth? Let's talk about it. The modern trans community is hijacked by people who are not even trans. They're basically faking being trans. And whenever real transsexuals speak out against it, these phonies will accuse them of dealing with internalized transphobia. What is internalized transphobia? This trans woman talks about the symptoms, so let's see if I have them.
Internalized transphobia, part 9. Does being around other trans people cause a sense of dysphoria or discomfort for you, especially if they have a non-binary expression of gender, or if they are just newer on their journey?
Your question doesn't make sense because non-binary is not trans. They can't relate to a goddamn thing transsexuals go through. But to answer the question, yes. I do sometimes feel dysphoric whenever I do research for a video and I have to react to these fake trans men. They have the septum piercing, the blue hair, the bipolar disorder, and they're trying to speak on transsexuals' behalf. I think what triggers my dysphoria is how I know regular people watching these videos think that I'm anything like that, when in reality, I'm not. Whatever these non-binary girls are doing is everything I'm trying not to be. The entire point of my transition from looking like a woman to looking like a man is that I want to look like a man. And I don't want to make videos on TikTok where I show off my binder, have semi-long hair that's unwashed, green, with a big Palestinian and trans flag in the background. That's not what I wanted to do. The goal of my transition has never been about inspiring others to do the same, making videos on how to do this whole trans thing. It was about alleviating the symptoms of my mental disorder, gender dysphoria. That's it. And these people that I'm talking about, who are making me dysphoric at times whenever I watch their videos, their content, do not deal with the same disorder. They do not deal with gender dysphoria. Moving on.
That feeling is coming from your own internalized transphobia. This feeling can arise around people with non-binary expressions of gender, or if they're just newer on their journey. Insecurity is just insecurity, is just insecurity, is just insecurity.
Wow, what a great argument. You're just insecure. No, babe, I'm not. Because no matter what I personally do, no matter how many videos I personally make, I of course can't control that these non-binary activists are also making videos, a lot of them, that are public. So that's why they can make me feel so uncomfortable at times. Because I keep imagining like a regular person watching those videos being like, wow, that's some weird trans shit. And it bugs me that I can't blame them for thinking like this. Non-binary individuals, activists, content creators are a problem and are doing something wrong. I mean, for God's sakes, a lot of people believe this person is misogynistic, is a sexist, but don't have a problem with non-binary activists promoting the idea that there's only one way to be a man and a woman. And that is why they identify as non-binary, as a third gender. It's ridiculous, and I know you can't compare the person I just showed you with non-binary ideology, but the non-binary ideology is way more dangerous than this one person. No matter how many followers he has. Who the F cares? He's an idiot. Kids nowadays are learning about gender ideology. That is something we should all be worried about. More than anything. More than any anti-Semitic commentator. We're unfortunately seeing a lot of kids nowadays identifying as non-binary. And you might think, so? It just means you're in between the two genders. Well, this whole thing is a slippery slope. Some of these kids go on puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones, and those drugs damage the children, physically and mentally. I don't think any child deserves to be damaged like that. I do not believe in non-binary because I believe that there are only two genders. There are only two genders because there's a million ways you can be a man or a woman. There's no effing limit. We do not need more genders.
Your feeling of discomfort, although valid, means nothing about what they're doing. Being trans is okay. It's beautiful. You're not doing anything wrong.
What does that even mean? trans is not beautiful. It's not the end of the world if you're a transsexual and you live this type of lifestyle. I mean, I live an amazing life, but I've sterilized myself. I've forced my body at the age of 20 to go through menopause. I'm a female without estrogen in my body, even though my body needs it. And the medical transition aside, I deal with a mental disorder called gender dysphoria. It's not really beautiful or fun to deal with a mental disorder, no matter what it is, no matter what it's called, no matter how much it's glamorized, praised. It can sometimes be really hard to struggle with your mental health. And of course, when dealing with a mental disorder, you also become stronger, sometimes more empathetic, wiser. It can even benefit you in some situations. Like in my case, this is my full-time job. It's my biggest passion to talk about trans discourse. And again, it's not the end of the world if you deal with a mental disorder, struggle mentally, but I think it's inappropriate to glamorize transsexualism, transgenderism so much. That will minimize all the side effects of the medical transition. And it's also like, if trans is beautiful, why can't kids be trans?
I had to bring out my Adam's apple today, which is one of my biggest insecurities. Because, I don't know who it's going to help today, but I hope it helps somebody.
How? But you do you. Okay, so that is what you meant in the beginning of the video. You said, does seeing someone who doesn't pass as the opposite sex, basically, make you feel dysphoric? If so, that means you're transphobic against yourself. If that is what you meant, then no. I don't technically feel dysphoric about the way I look, feel insecure about the way I look, about if I look male enough. Whenever I see these young women who just look like feminine young women with a nose ring. No. I'm very secure in my transition. I am very comfortable with the way I look, sound, and live my life. I don't really care what people do on the internet, because my life is not the internet. I live in the real world, so. Do I hate myself for being trans? No. Do I love the fact that I'm trans? No. No one can be trans. It's not a thing you can be. You can be a woman, you can be a man, you can be a gender dysphoric woman, you can be a gender dysphoric man. But trans is an identity label. And in reality, I should never call myself trans because it's not something I am. I'm factually speaking a gender dysphoric woman. And I don't consider my gender dysphoria, my mental disorder, my entire identity. So I don't need an identity label like trans. I mean, I don't need it in real life. Maybe it's a good idea to call myself trans here on the internet because I'm, trying to explain this whole situation and topic. But I don't identify as anything. I don't need a label like transsexual really, when it really comes down to it. I'm the type of person who is just honest about what I am, who I am. That's because I have nothing to hide. Telling the truth about what I am doesn't really trigger my gender dysphoria either. Because my gender dysphoria knows that even though I call myself a woman all the time, society, meaning strangers, but also my surroundings, see me as a man. That is what I look like, sound like, and is something that makes me happy. People can accuse me of dealing with internalized transphobia all they want. People can even call me transphobic. I do not care. Just because I can relate to this new made-up term doesn't mean it's necessarily a bad thing. And I know it sounds weird that I'm saying it's not a bad thing if you're transphobic. Well, nowadays it isn't, because transphobia has lost its meaning. The new definition is if you're a smart human being who cares about children, women, real LGBT people, you're transphobic. So today's message is don't be scared. Maybe see it as an honor to be called transphobic. Thank you all for watching. If you want to see more content like this, remember to hit subscribe and the notification bell. If you want to support me and my channel, you can become a member, or I have my PayPal link in the description down below. Follow me on social media. I love you and I cannot wait to see you in the comments. Peace out.